Life as We Know It with Tom Walton.
For several years now, I have subscribed to a newsletter produced every couple months by the Mohawk Historical Society in Sycamore, Ohio, a small farming community where I grew up in Wyandotte County. I send them a check to support their marvelous little history museum, and they send me their newsletters. Each newsletter contains 24 or more articles taken from newspapers published in the county's past, sometimes the distant past. The latest newsletter for September and October contains stories dating as far back as 1867. Invariably, they offer fascinating glimpses into how our forebears lived their lives. The 1867 article was from the Seneca Advertiser out of Tiffin, and it described the bizarre story of a Tiffin housewife who found a basket at her front door which contained some sort of creature wrapped in rags and a note. The note, written to the housewife's husband, called him a rake and a scoundrel and assured him that the child was his. The letter demanded that he bring up the child right so that it may, quote, turn out better than its daddy, unquote. The note went on in the most accusatory terms. You deceived me, it said. You shamed me, letting on to be a widower. Do a father's part towards the child and I will forgive you. Signed, your broken-hearted Nancy. Well, you can imagine the shock and anger of the poor housewife to learn that her dear husband had fathered a child with another woman. She began yelling at her husband about a hussy named Nancy and threatened to expose him to the entire neighborhood by inviting the neighbors in, which she proceeded to do. When the crowd was assembled, the wife ordered her husband to examine the basket's contents. Don't be afraid, she said. It won't bite. It's got no teeth, the poor thing. Slowly, the two of them began peeling away layer after layer of swaddling clothes, while the husband, no doubt, was sweating bullets. Finally, the youngster could no longer be restrained. It jumped right out of the basket and dashed for the open front door, disappearing into the night. Well, it turned out the infant was just a big old tomcat, not a baby. What may have been the greatest practical joke of the 19th century had been played upon the couple by a mischievous young lady who lived next door. The old newspaper article never mentioned if the woman next door was in fact named Nancy. However, inasmuch as the episode probably shortened the lives of the prankster's two victims by at least a year, it's unlikely she was invited over for supper after that. For that matter, the tomcat probably was traumatized by the experience too, and may have sacrificed one or two of his 9 lives. Before you assume the whole thing was just a made-up piece of fiction intended only to provide a little humor for the good folks of Tiffin, let me assure you it was legitimate. Remember, this was 1867. The story even mentioned the victims of the joke by name, thereby spreading their embarrassment from one end of town to the other. So I thank the Mohawk Historical Society in my old hometown of Sycamore. Stories like this one restore my faith in post-Civil War journalism.
Life as We Know It is written and hosted by Tom Walton and is a production of WGTE Public Media. Life as We Know It with Tom Walton can be heard on WGTE FM 91 every Monday afternoon during All Things Considered at 5:44 p.m. or hear past episodes at wgte.org/life.